Part 2. Lists. So as an addendum to the Slaves to Darkness faction focus, here are some prospective lists that should work to bring further clarity to the synergies, units, and abilities in Slaves to Darkness. These are samples, and aren't finely tuned tournament-winning vehicles, but rather, I think, good starting points to build off of, take ideas from, and generally get the gears turning. The first list is Despoilers, and I think a good example of an archetypal Slaves to Darkness list. If your general is a Demon Prince in Despoilers, he gets a 5-up shrug against everything. Heals D3 wounds in your hero phase on a 4-up, becomes a Paragon of Ruin, so D3 units in your army get a free 5-inch move before the game begins, and wields the Doombringer Blade. So also before the game begins, he can single out an enemy hero or monster that your whole army can reroll hits and wounds against for the whole game. And terrain he's near blocks line of sight. And his Cornate Hero Aura of reroll 1s to hit and +1 to wound rolls is increased to 18 inches. And he still has the have run and charge rolls command ability and always fights first. This dude has ascended past what it means to be a Demon Prince and is now like Lift Master Chad Prince of Gains. I was tempted to put another Demon Prince in there, Mark Slaanesh, because those are pretty good too, and she'd benefit from the healing, but we have too many great heroes to pick and only so many points. First I gave Lift Master a vanguard of killers to charge people who fail their d6 roll of 10 corn-marked Chaos Chosen. 3 attacks a model, 4 on the Exalted Champion, 3s and 2s rend 1 damage 1, and 6s proc a mortal wound. Plus if they kill anything, nearby mortals can reroll wounds. Next let's build an anvil, and one that challenges that B+ rating I gave the faction as a whole. Enter Nurgle Chaos Lord. Mark Aura gives +1 damage on 6s to wound, and first things first, let's suit him up in a Diabolic Mantle, which gives us a D3 extra command points before the game begins. And his command ability lets you pile in twice, which we should get value out of, since it'll be unlikely that 10 Nurgle-marked Chaos Warriors die in between activations. We'll give them Rune Shields for the 5-up ward against mortal wounds, and Halberds for the 2-inch reach, so all 10 get their attacks. They're on 4-up rerolling armor, but I want more. How about a Nurgle-marked Chaos War Shrine to give them +1 to armor saves, making it 3-up rerolling? And 6-up Shrug, and 5-up Ward versus Mortals, and reroll wounds in combat to fish for those 6s as a bonus. Much better. Side note, the War Shrine can be whatever mark. You have access to all the prayers regardless, I just marked it Nurgle to target itself in a pinch. Next we need a teleport and a reroll hits and wounds buff and a reroll armor saves buff, because most armies out there would kill for even one of those 3. So that's easy, Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh for 110 points, ready to project his aura to his entourage. 10 Great Blade Chaos Warriors, now with exploding hits. That's squad goals. So what are we missing? Got some damage, got some control, some buffs, an anvil, but everyone's slow besides the teleport, and our drops are high. 10 Chaos Knights with lances and a Slaanesh Chaos Lord on Demonic Mount for aura, +1 to hit, and reroll charges. Plus a God's Wrath Warband, which lowers our drops considerably, gives us an extra command point, and lets the Chaos War Shrine toss out some mortal wounds in a 24-inch radius. Although only on a 6-up. So we're 4 drops, 129 wounds, bunch of command points, a good mix of marks for each job, solid units, some disruption, can project power to multiple places at once, and most importantly by far for a Slaves to Darkness army, everyone looks badass. The second list is Kabbalists, and where the first one was Knights, Lords, and Warriors kinda throwing their weight around, it's time for Sorcery to take the spotlight. This one won't care about drops because we're trying to be cunning, and ends up with 9 units to at least superficially shout out Tzeentch, even if all the Tzeentch abilities in the book are bad. The plan is we put our least useful units down first, and when the opponent finishes dropping halfway through because they want to choose who goes first, we get to place our main units down after they've shown their hand. As far away from problem units, or right across from our good matchups as we like. As for Kabbalist sub-faction, plus D3 to casting rolls army-wide is super strong. And since our spell lores are so excellent, it seems reasonable to make sure they resolve. The general is a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh, and I gave him Mighty Ritualist, so the ritual works on a 2-up since consistency is king. But whomst to sacrifice? How about 80 Slaaneshi Marauders with 2-inch reach flails? 3 ranks get to fight, 3s and 3s rend 1, exploding 6s, they only fail a 9-inch charge on Snake Eyes, and their Dark Oath Chieftains make sure they get to fight even if they die first. For spells, we got all the good ones. Teleport, Fight's Last debuff, Demonic Power, Enfeeble Foe, and the Horde Breaker that stops movement. Speaking of disruption, it's Bellicor, and his once a game until your next hero phase target unit needs to roll a 5-up to successfully try to cast a spell, move, charge, pile in, and attack. And his 2 spells per turn are at bonuses thanks to our ritual. Rounding out our units and rolls, look, just because we're the magic list doesn't mean we aren't here to slap. So Chaos Lord on Karkadrak unfurls his demon-possessed axe and Ren 3-dimensional blade to lead the Chaos Knight charge, now with full spell support. He's like the Chaos Lord on Demonic Mount from the first list, except his armor is better, his mount is better, his rules are better, his weapons are way better, and he's got impact hits on the charge. 1 inch slower though, so it's a trade-off. Finally, we have a Balewind Vortex to extend the range of our control spells and cast 2 per turn. Alright, and Geminids of Ulgish. This endless spell has a Light Orb and a Shadow Orb, and they each deal D3 mortal wounds and debuff anything they touch when they move. Shadow Orb gives -1 attacks to all weapons, and Light Orb gives -1 to hit. Anything affected by the Shadow Orb cannot be affected by the Light Orb, and vice versa. However, we have a second ritual, don't we? Ah yes. It lets you move an endless spell a second time, and there's nothing that says you can't be affected by light twice or shadow twice, just that you can't cross the streams. Not bad. If you want to play with Archaon, I feel like I don't need to show you a list, because we both know what you're going to do, and you're not wrong for wanting to, I get it. I play Beastclaw with 5 Stonehorns, I understand. But they capture as 50 models, and Vanguard don't, so you're going to struggle on objectives. You won't have anywhere close to enough units or models to spread out and play to the battle plans, or especially recover from taking casualties, etc. But if you want to smash or get smashed right away, I mean, here it is. Some brief notes: you're going to really have to lean into a tempo strategy here, and every Vanguard unit is going to need By My Will when they die to make sure you trade up in points every time. And Circle 6 is what you always should choose for their blessings, as +1 damage on the charge is better than any other option, even flying. If they don't get the charge, you probably lose anyway, so the charge requirement isn't so bad. Their armor is good, but at only 15 wounds for 300 points, they tap out real quick to mortal wounds, since their shield is only for spells. I feel like the better way to play Archaon, at least in Slaves to Darkness, is as the capstone placed on top of an already balanced but hero light 1k list, with the extra 200 points used to smooth over any cracks. And make sure you have plenty of command points in there to spam By My Will. It's how you make up the difference for paying so much. You also have Knights of the Empty Throne from the Wrath of the Everchosen supplement. It's a sub-faction that lets your units of Vanguard of any size count as heroes, which means they can get their own Slanesh aura, which is big. Their no retreat artifact is low-key powerful, since retreating towards an objective turn 4 or 5 is often a play that wins a game, and shutting that option off is not only strong tactically but also in theme. Also, each Vanguard unit that dies is replaced from the board edge by reinforcements on a 5-up. This is all good, but they're still probably too expensive in a vacuum at 100 points per model, and probably not worth the trade-off from whatever Damned Legion abilities you were going to take instead of Empty Throne. Still, it's worth a try if you love the models.